Good afternoon. Myself E. Rajkumar, Assistant Professor of Commerce. Today I am going to teach about the income from salary. The particular topic is covered under the subject called income tax. Basically, while computing the total income of a person, the income from salary is the one of the head to compute the total income of an assessee. For computation purpose, for total income computation purpose, the Income Tax Act 1961 has divided the income into 5 categories. The income has divided into 5 categories. They are income from salary and income from house property, profit and gains from business and profession, capital gain, and income from other sources. These are the income heads are called as per Income Tax Act. Any person is gaining or any person is earning any income by these 5 categories only. That's why the Act has identified 5 types of heads. For example, the assessee is performing his profession, we should consider that particular income under profit and gains from business and profession. Otherwise, the assessee is having more than one house and the particular house is using for let out, giving for let out. In that situation, he is earning any rent from that particular house. That rent should be taken under income from house property like this. Based on the nature of the income, we should consider that particular income according to the rules and regulations framed by the Income Tax Act 1961. Now today I am going to explain about the income from salary head. The particular income from salary is explained from section 15 to 17 of Income Tax Act. The computation procedure is like this. This is the pro forma which was developed by the Income Tax Department. In the first part of the pro forma, we take the basic salary, sometimes pension, because any person is retired from his employment. In that situation, we consider pension, any annuity, any bonus, commission, arrears of salary and advance salary. Then we add the gratuity or leave encashment or commuted pension and any allowances. Then we give effect of the perquisites. Then we give the effect of the profits in lieu of salary. Then we give effect of the RPF in excess of 12%. In excess of 12% of salary, employer's contribution. Then interest credited to RPF in excess of notified amount. In excess of notified amount, that is 9.5%. Then the arrived value should be treated as gross salary. Then we give deductions as per section 16. The deductions are 3: standard deduction, entertainment allowance, and employment tax or professional tax. Previously, the deductions are only 2: 16.2 and 16.3, entertainment allowance and employment tax or professional tax. Since 2018 onwards, the standard deduction has introduced by the government. Then after deducting the deductions as per section 16 from the gross salary, the arrived value should be treated as income chargeable under the head of salary or total salary. This is the pro forma we will use to compute the income from salary of an assessee or of a salaried person. This is the pro forma. Before going to the computation of income from salary, first we should know what is salary. What is salary? As per section 15, the salary consisting of the following terms. The first one is any salary due from an employer or former employer. to an assessee in the previous year whether actually paid or not. It is nothing but whether the employee is doing his work under present employee, or he has done his employment in the previous employer. In that situation, he is receiving any income. In that situation, that is called normal salary. By performing his duty, whether he is receiving any amount from his employer, that is called normal salary. Any salary paid to him in the previous year by an employer or a former employer, though not due or before it became due to him, that is advance salary. That's nothing but before performing his duty, he receives some advance salary. That means, for example, this is a month called, August, but he receives some salary belongs to next month, September or October. That particular salary is called as advance salary. That means before performing his duty, he receives any amount from his employer. That particular amount is to be treated as advance salary. Then any arrears of salary paid to him by employer or former employer, if not charged to income tax for any earlier previous year. That means actually he has to earn the income, he has to earn salary from the employer, but he did not receive the salary of that particular period at that time. But he receives that salary in the current previous year. That particular amount is to be treated as arrears of salary. The salary is normal salary, advance salary, and arrears of salary. These are the three types of salaries notified by the Income Tax Act as per section 15. This is called basis of charge. Then what is salary? In that particular salary, what are the items were included? What are the items were included? The first one is wages, then annuity or pension, gratuity, any fees or any commission received by the employee, any bonus received by the employee, any perquisites. Any perquisites were received by the employee as per section 17(2), and profits in lieu of salary as per section 17(3). Then salary in lieu of leave or leave encashment, this one also, and advance salary and arrears of salary, refund of provident fund. While calculating the computation of the salary of an assessee, the refund of provident fund is very very important. The statutory provident fund is fully exempted. The statutory provident fund is fully exempted. And the issue of recognized provident fund, RPF is nothing but recognized provident fund. In this recognized provident fund is fully exempted if service is more than 5 years. That nothing but the employee has a service of more than 5 years. In that situation, the RPF is fully exempted from the income tax. That means no need to no need to consider the RPF while calculating the total income of an assessee. Then if URPF taxable portion is added in salary income, that means taxable portion is nothing but employer's contribution and interest on this part. The taxable portion nothing but employer's contribution in unrecognized provident fund, and how much interest is added on that particular employer's contribution in unrecognized provident fund, that is to be taxable. And interest on own contribution on URPF is taxable under the head income from other sources. Then what is mean by allowance? Basically, allowance is generally defined as a fixed quantity of money given regularly. That means in addition to the salary, any fixed amount was given by the employer to his employee, that is to be treated as allowance for the purpose of meeting some particular requirement connected with the services rendered by the employee or as a compensation of unusual conditions for that service. That means by performing his duties in that particular organization, the employer has provided any fixed quantity of money or fixed quantity of benefit provided to his employee in addition to his salary, that is to be treated as allowance. It is fixed, predetermined and given irrespective of actual expenditure. It is fixed and predetermined, given irrespective of actual expenditure. As per Income Tax Act 1961, it is taxable under Section 15 on due or receipt basis. On due or receipt basis is nothing but whether he is received or is going to receive in near future. Whichever is earlier, irrespective of the fact that it is paid in addition to or in lieu of salary. That is, whether he is received or not, we have to consider while calculating that particular allowance. The first part of the computation is salary. Then next part of the computation is allowances. In these allowances, for computation purpose, the allowances are divided into categorized or categorized or divided into three parts. They are fully taxable allowances and fully exempted allowances, then partly exempted allowances. The allowances are divided or classified into three types. The first one is fully taxable allowances, then fully exempted allowances. The third one is partly exempted allowances. The first one is fully taxable allowances. City compensation allowance, fixed medical allowance, tiffin allowance, lunch allowance, dinner refreshment allowance, servant allowance, dearness allowance, project allowance, overtime allowance, interim allowance, any other cash allowances. These are the allowances fully taxable in all cases. Then fully exempted allowances. The next one is fully exempted allowances. The fully exempted allowances is nothing but the employer has provided these are the following allowances to the employees. On that amount, the employee no need to pay any income tax to the income tax department. The particular persons were identified by the Income Tax Act, and that persons no need to pay any income tax on that particular allowances. Allowances to judges of High Court and Supreme Court. Allowances to judges of High Court and Supreme Court. Then salary and allowances received by a teacher or professor from SARC member state. Then allowances paid by the UNO to its employees. Any allowance paid to employees who are working under UNO. And any allowance paid or allowed by government to its employees posted outside India. That's nothing but any employee belongs to India, then that particular employee has working outside India on behalf of India. That's nothing but that particular employees are working in Indian embassies or representative of India at UNO or any subsidiaries of UNO. Then following allowances and purposes given to serving chairman and member of UPSC. Serving chairman and members of UPSC means presently working chairman and present members. The value of rent-free official residence and value of conveyance facilities and sumptuary allowances and leave travel concession. These are the four allowances were given to UPSC present chairman and UPSC present members. For previous UPSC chairman, some restrictions are there. Maximum he can avail deduction up to 14,000 rupees as the deduction. You can avail deduction up to rupees 14,000 only. Then partly taxable allowances. This is very, very important. The first one is partly taxable allowances. Before discussing about the partly taxable allowance, the entertainment allowance is very, very important. The entertainment allowance is given to two persons from government employees. Before explaining the allowances, as per Income Tax Act, the employees are divided into two types. The first one is government employees and non-government employees. The government employees is nothing but who are receiving salary from the government. Those persons, those employees as treated as government employees. And non-government employees is nothing but any employees receiving salary from the non-government organizations. Non-government organizations, that particular employees is to be treated as non-government employees. The partly taxable allowances, the first one is entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance is the taxable. The entertainment allowance is fully taxable in cases of other employees, nothing but other than government employees, whether who are receiving any entertainment allowance, that particular entertainment allowance is to be treated as fully taxable. Other than non-government employees means government employees, whether the government employees are receiving any entertainment allowance, those person can avail deduction as per by following some procedures, by satisfying some conditions. The government employee can avail some deduction or exemption. The exemption is list of the following three conditions. The exemption amount is list of the following three conditions. The conditions are, the first one is rupees 5,000. The second one is 1/5 of the salary. 1/5 of the salary, or sometimes women treat it as 20% of the salary. The salary is nothing but basic pay only. Then the third one is actual entertainment allowance received from his employer. The actual entertainment allowance is received from his employer. The first condition is rupees 5,000, and the second condition is 20% of the salary or 1/5 of the salary. Salary is nothing but basic pay only. The third condition is actual entertainment allowance received. These are the three conditions we have to observe to calculate the exemption limit of the employee. After calculating this particular exemption, while calculating the salary of a assessee, first consider the how much amount he received as entertainment allowance, that should be shown under allowances. Then how much amount we calculated as exemption, that is to be shown under deductions as per section 16(2). Be careful while considering the entertainment allowance. The first one is how much amount is received as allowance, that is to be shown under allowances head. And secondly, how much amount we calculated as exemption, that is to be shown under deductions as per section 16(2). And one more thing, the entertainment allowance has exemption to government employees only. For non-government employees, it is fully taxable. No need to calculate any exemption to the non-government employees. No need to calculate. Then the second one is house rent allowance. This is very, very important. The house rent allowance is nothing but any allowance is given by his employer to his employee to meet house rent expenditure. The house rent allowance has some exemption by satisfying some conditions. It is irrespective of the employability. That means to government employees and to non-government employees, there is no bifurcation, there is no discrimination to give a exemption. exemption. The exemption is list of the following three conditions. The exemption amount is list of the following three conditions. The condition is, the first condition is the actual allowance, the actual HRA is received by the employee, and the second condition is rent paid minus 10% of the salary. The third condition is 40% of the salary, 40% of the salary in ordinary town. Whether the employee is living in metropolitan cities, whether the employee is living in metropolitan cities, the third condition may be changed. The third condition is to be changed. In place of 40%, we have to calculate 50% of the salary. We have to calculate the 50% of the salary. Other than metropolitan cities, we have to calculate 40% of the salary. In metropolitan cities, we have to calculate 50% of the salary. In India, only 4 metropolitan cities are there. The first one is Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata and Delhi. These are the 4 cities were identified by the Income Tax Act. As per Income Tax Act, whether any employee is living in these 4 cities, we have to consider 50% of the salary. Other than these 4 cities, we have to calculate 40% of the salary. Here the salary is nothing but basic pay plus DA, which enters into pay for service or retirement benefit and commission on turnover achieved by him. That means pay is nothing but basic pay, DA, whether that particular DA receiving for the purpose of retirement benefit, we have to add back. Whether the DA is not entering for retirement benefit, no need to add back. Then the third one is commission on turnover. Commission on turnover is nothing but commission on sales. These are the 3 items were identified to calculate the salary, to calculate the house rent allowance, to calculate the house rent allowance, basic pay and DA for entering retirement benefits, and then fixed commission on turnover or sales. While calculating the house rent allowance, we have to observe some things. The first one is fully taxable if HRA is received by an employee who is living in his own house, or if he does not pay any rent to anybody. That means the employee is living in his own house. Under situation, how much amount received by the employee, that much amount is to be shown under allowances fully. No need to calculate exemption and how much amount, no need to calculate exemption and full amount, how much amount he received from his employer, that is to be taxable, whether he is receiving in his own house or whether he is not paying any rent to anybody. The second one is, it is mandatory for employee to report PAN of the landlord to the employer if rent paid is more than 1 lakh. In the 2013, one circular was given by the government. Whether the employee is paying a rent for annual basis, so per annum, the amount is more than 1 lakh. The amount is more than 1 lakh. In that situation, we have to provide PAN card of the landlord or PAN card of the house owner to claim deduction. If we are failed to provide the PAN card of the PAN card of the landlord or PAN card of the house owner, in that situation, we are unable to claim exemption. We are unable to claim the exemption. How much amount we received from the employer, that amount, on that amount we have to pay the income tax. Just here we observe one example. Mr. A, who lives in a rented house, works as a salaried employee in Delhi. Delhi is a metropolitan city, and he is living in a rented house. That means he is not living in his own house, and he is living in Delhi. He pays a monthly rent of 12,000. That means he is paying something. He is paying something to his landlord, and receives a monthly HRA of 15,000. He is receiving HRA of 15,000. Now let us understand how much tax deduction he can claim on the basis of these allowances. The following table shows the salary structure of Mr. A. Salary components and amount: basic pay, HRA, conveyance, medical, special allowance. Total amount is 44,550. To calculate the deduction amount or exemption amount, we have to observe the three conditions. The first condition is actual HRA received by the employee. The second condition is actual rent paid minus 10% of the salary. The third condition is 50% of the salary. Why? Because he is living in Delhi. Whether he is living in other than Delhi or other than metropolitan, we have to take in the third condition as 40% of salary. But in this given example, he is living in Delhi. That's why we are considering 50% of salary. We are considering 50% of salary. The first one is actual HRA received is 15,000 per month and actual rent paid 12,000 per month. Then minus 10% of salary. 10% of salary nothing but, already I told you, while calculating the salary is nothing but basic pay plus DA, if DA is entering for retirement benefit, and fixed commission on turnover. In the given example, he is having only basic pay and HRA, conveyance, medical allowance and special allowance. Nothing, there is no information regarding the DA and commission. There is no information regarding the DA and commission. That's why here the salary is nothing but basic pay only. The salary is nothing but basic pay only. The basic pay is 23,000. The 10% of 23,000 means 2,300. Then 12,000 minus 2,300. Then the arrived value is 9,700. Then the third condition is 50% of the salary. 50% of the salary is nothing but 23,000 is the basic pay. Then 50%, that is 11,500. Actual HRA received is 15,000. Then actual rent paid 12,000 minus 10% of the salary is 2,300. The arrived value is 9,700. Then 50% of the 23,000 is 11,500. By observing these three conditions, the lowest value is 9,700. The lowest value is 9,700 by observing 15,000, 9,700 and 11,500. The lowest value is 9,700. So the exemption amount is 9,700. Then after this, the third one is allowances are exempted up to actual expenditure incurred for employment. Allowances are exempted up to actual expenditure incurred for employment. That means the employer has provided, for example, the employer has provided 1,000 rupees, but the employee has used only 800. The employer has provided as that particular allowance an amount of 1,000, but the employee has used only 800. The employee has used only 800. The remaining 200 is taxable. The remaining 200 is taxable. The following are the six allowances were identified under this category. They are uniform allowance, uniform regarding the dress code, helper and assistant allowance, and research allowance. Research allowance is nothing but in his organization, any employee want to do research or any employee want to improve his academic qualifications. In that situation, the employee can get allowance from his employer. Then conveyance allowance, then traveling allowance, then daily allowance. conveyance allowance, traveling allowance, and daily allowance. These are the 6 allowances were identified by the income tax department. Then the fourth category is allowances are exempted up to actual expenditure incurred for employment. Allowances are exempted up to actual expenditure incurred for employment. It is nothing but how much amount is incurred, how much expenditure is incurred for that particular benefit, and the expenditure is borne by the employee. In that situation, how much as per the rules, how much amount is received from his employer, how much amount is received from his employer minus how much amount is notified by the income tax department as deduction. As deduction, by comparing these two, the difference amount is to be taxable. The difference amount is to be taxable. Under this allowances, how much amount is received from his employer minus how much amount is to be taken as deduction as notified by the income tax department. The remaining amount is to be taxable under allowances head. The first identified allowance is children education allowance. Children education allowance. That means the employee having any children and the employee is receiving children education allowance from his employer. In that situation, the exemption is list of the following two. The first condition is actual allowance received from his employer, and the second condition is up to 100 per month per child. It is for maximum 2 children. The first one is actual allowance received from his employer, and the second condition is up to 100 rupees per month per child. That means 100 rupees per child, and the child limit is only 2, and the child limit is only 2. That means every month the employee can avail deduction of maximum 200 only. For every month, the assessee or the employee can avail deduction maximum 200 rupees only. On annual basis, 2400 maximum he can avail as deduction. Then hostel expenditure allowance or hostel allowance. That means the employee having children and those children were in the hostel. The children were in the hostel. In that situation also, we have to observe the conditions to calculate the how much amount is to be exempted. How much amount is to be exempted. The first one is actual allowance received, and the second one is up to rupees 300 per month per child, up to a maximum of 2 children. Up to a maximum of 2 children. That's nothing but 300 rupees per month into maximum 2 children. 300 rupees per month into maximum 2 children. That means every month he can avail deduction of rupees 6,000 maximum. To for every month he can avail a deduction of rupees maximum 600 only. Maximum 600 only. 300 rupees per child into maximum 2 children, that is 600 rupees, and annually 7,200 only, and annually 7,200 only. The remaining amount, the assessee has to or the employee has to pay the income tax. For example, the assessee is receiving every month 1,000 rupees as allowance. 1,000 rupees as allowance. That means 1,000 into 12 for annual. 1,000 into 12,000, and the assessee is having 2 children. The assessee is having 2 children. Assessee is having 2 children. That means 300 into 2, 600, 600 into 12, 7,200. The least amount is 7,200. The exemption also 7,200 only. The remaining amount 12,000 minus 7,200. 12,000 minus 7,200. The remaining amount is 4,800 is taxable. 4,800 is taxable. Then transport allowance granted to an employee to meet expenditure for the purpose of commuting between place of residence and place of duty. Exemption is list of the following two conditions. The first condition is actual allowance received from his employer, and the second one is rupees 1600 per month granted to an employee. 1600 granted to his employee. In normal situations, whether the employee is a physically challenged person, or he is having any blindness or deafness or orthopedically handicapped with a disability of lower extremities. In that situation, the limit is 3,200. The limit is 3,200. For normal employees, the limit is rupees 1600. For orthopedically handicapped with a disability of lower extremities and deaf and dumb and blind employees, the limit is 3,200. Then allowance granted to an employee working in any transport business to meet his personal expenditure during his duty performed in the course of running of such transport from one place to another place, provided employee is not in receipt of daily allowance. That means the employee is working in transport organization. Under situation, the exemption is list of the following two. Under situation, the exemption is list of the following two. The first condition is 70% of the allowance received, and the second one is 10,000 rupees per month. The first condition is 70% of the allowance received per month, and the second condition is 10,000 rupees per month, whichever is lower. And the next one is the special allowances. These are the special allowances given to specified persons only. The particular allowances given to specified persons only. Those persons were identified by the income tax department. The first one is special compensatory allowance. That nothing but any person is working in hill areas. The amount exempt from tax varies from 300 to 7,000 per month. The amount exempt from 300 to 7,000 per month according to the area of location. The second special allowance is border area allowance, remote locality or allowance, or disbursed area allowance, or difficult area allowance. This particular allowance also exempt according to the tax varies from 200 per month to 1,300 per month. This one also varies according to the situation from 200 per month to 1,300 per month. Then tribal area allowance, which is identified in the following states: in Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Tripura, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Tripura, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Any person is receiving tribal area allowance, he can take exemption of rupees 200 per month, maximum. Then the next one is compensatory field area allowance. Compensatory field area allowance. In this situation, if this exemption is taken, employee cannot claim any exemption in respect of border area allowance. Border area allowance. Here, border area allowance, remote locality or allowance. Whether the person is receiving compensatory field area allowance, in this situation, the particular employee has not permitted to take border area allowance. That means the person has to take only one allowance. Which one is benefit to the employee? Which one is benefit to the employee? Compensatory field area allowance is exempted up to maximum 2600 per month. Up to maximum 2600 per month. Then compensatory modified area allowance. This is compensatory modified area allowance. This one also, whether the employee is taking any border area allowance, that person has to, the person has no choice to receive compensatory modified area allowance. As per this compensatory modified area allowance, we can take exemption up to maximum of 1000 rupees per month. 1000 rupees per month. Then next one is counter insurgency allowance. Counter insurgency allowance. If this exemption is taken, employee cannot claim any exemption in respect of border area allowance. Same amount exempt from tax up to 3900 per month. That means any employee is taking border area allowance, that person has no choice or no chance to take counter insurgency allowance. Counter insurgency allowance. Then underground allowance is granted to employees working in uncongenial, unnatural climate in underground mines. For example, if the employee is working in any coal mines, in that situation, the person can avail a deduction or exemption up to 800 rupees per month. 800 rupees per month. The next one is high altitude allowance is granted to armed forces operating in high altitude areas. High altitude areas. The amount exempted from tax up to 1060 per month. Whether the altitude is 9000 to 15000 feet. Whether the altitude is 9000 to 15000 feet. And up to 1600 per month if the altitude is above 15,000 feet. If the altitude is above 15,000 feet. Whether the altitude is 9,000, in between 9,000 to 15,000, the exemption amount is 1060, and the altitude is more than 15,000, the exemption limit is 1600 per month. The next one is highly active field area allowance is granted to members of armed forces. The highly active field area allowance is granted to members of armed forces. Amount exempt from tax up to maximum of 4200 per month. The amount is exempted up to maximum of 4200 per month. The next one is island duty allowance. Island duty allowance is granted to members of armed forces in Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep group of islands. Any person, any soldier is working in Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep. Those people can take exemption to maximum of 3250 per month. So rupees 3250 per month. These are the allowances for notified or identified by the income tax department. For each allowance there is some procedure to evaluate or to calculate the exemption limit. Based on that procedure only we have to calculate the exemption limit. After calculating the exemption limit, we have to deduct how much amount received from the employer minus how much we calculated as exemption. The difference amount is to be treated as taxable allowance. The difference amount is to be treated as taxable allowance. That particular taxable allowance to be shown under allowances. Shown under allowances while calculating the gross salary of a employee. Gross salary of a employee. These are the allowances notified by the income tax department. Thank you.